What's going on, you guys, man? Welcome back to yet another King Japes episode. Now today we're going to be talking about something that I feel like is extremely important, especially when it comes to keeping your gear in tip-top shape, and that is just basic care and maintenance for your 35mm film cameras. Now whether you are just getting a new camera in off of eBay, or if you've been gifted one, or you just have, your cameras out laying around, basic care and maintenance is something that you need to do to upkeep the camera's operation, just so that it's always running smooth and clean. Now with that said, I do have a couple of cameras here that I just got recently. This is the Nicomat FT that I just picked up at the thrift store, as well as the Nicomat EL, and I'm going to be taking you guys pretty much through my process on what I do to clean them, also do some basic maintenance and service for each of my film cameras. And this is pretty simple, anybody can follow it, and all of the materials that we're going to be using you probably already have around the house. Now ideally you want to do this maybe once a month, but I get it, life gets hectic, but one every couple of months is definitely something you should do. But before we get started, if you want to support this channel in the most free way possible, please drop a like down below. Lets me know that you guys enjoy these videos, and also subscribe if you are brand new to this channel and want to learn more about film photography. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Now the first thing that I do when I get a new film camera, or if I'm just trying to clean one that I haven't touched in a while, is grab any type of microfiber cloth as well as some disinfectant wipes. And what I'll end up doing is I'll just go over the camera, hit the top plate a little bit with the disinfectant wipe, hit the bottom plate, and really kind of just work my way around the camera just so that I can get all of that grime and dirt off. A lot of these cameras sit in storage for a very long time, or maybe you get it at a thrift store and you don't want to put something that is dirty up to your eye when you make photographs. And so try to find something that is gonna clean your camera but also not damage some of the materials like the leatherette. And usually I opt for things like Clorox wipes, but you could also just get like paper towel and dab it in a little bit of hot water and then just go over the camera. Now after I get most of the grime and dirt off, the next thing that I'll do is take the microfiber cloth and start to clean some of those nice shiny surfaces. So a lot of times these cameras have a lot of metal on them. I'll take the microfiber cloth, try to polish that up a little bit, especially in those smaller nooks and crannies like around the lens mount area, as well as even on the backside. Your goal here is to really make the camera pop and polish, and if you want to go a step further, you could even grab some Q-tips and get into those really hard to reach areas. Part of shooting film is enjoying the beauty of these vintage cameras, and if your camera isn't clean, you can't really enjoy it to its full potential, in my opinion. Now the next step that I would do is to take your lens off and check to see if there's any dust on that mirror. Now this is going to work for SLRs as well as rangefinders, not so much for point and shoots, but if there is any dust inside of that cavity, turn your camera like this, face down, and get a rocket blower and just blow some air inside of there to get all of that dust out. This will ensure that when you go try to focus your camera through the focusing screen, there's not going to be a ton of dust in that viewfinder, because most of the times if you've had a dirty viewfinder in the past, you know how annoying it can get when it comes to focusing. Same thing goes for the back side of the camera. Open up that back cavity here and just blow out as much as you can. One thing that I would do is maybe just avoid compressed air. If you have compressed air and that's the only thing you have, you don't have a rocket blower, that's fine as well, but just try to hit it very, very lightly, especially if you have like a cloth shutter. You don't want to damage your camera. So now that your camera is clean and all of the dirt and grime is off, the next step would be to focus in on your lens. Now your lens is extremely important to clean. It's pretty much what's going to dictate the quality of images that you make, and so it's very important that you have the right care for your lenses. Now here are a couple of things you need to avoid. Avoid using any type of super strong liquid or like glass cleaner on the front element of your lens, or the back as well. The main reason is because some of these chemicals can start to wear off the coating on these lenses, and if you use it too much or just at all, you might damage the lens in the long run. And so one thing that I would do is opt for something like a Zeiss lens wipe. Now these are an absolute lifesaver. The Zeiss lens wipes I have been using for years, and they do not affect the lens at all. The coating stays on perfectly, and it really just cleans the surface surface of the lens. I'll usually take one of these, take care of the front side, try to get all of the dust off, and then I will hit the back side, and by then, my lenses are crystal clear. After you clean the front element, I go to the focusing ring and focus all the way to the closest focusing distance. The reason why we do this is because your lens is usually going to extend that barrel out as far as possible, just so that when you take your microfiber cloth under, it can get all of that grime and dirt. Grab that microfiber cloth, work your way around the lens, get into those smaller intricate details and corners, and try your best to clean the lens up. And while you're at it, on the back side of the camera, your viewfinder here, that glass can also be cleaned. So I would take a microfiber cloth or even like a Zeiss lens wipe, because that is glass. Go ahead and just hit that a little bit to get it nice and clean. So that's pretty much how I kind of care for my cameras from start to finish, and how I make sure they are perfect picture clean. The next step, of course, would be maintenance. All right, quick little cameo before we jump into the maintenance section of this video. So one thing that I forgot to mention was you need to try out each of the individual shutter speeds to make sure that the camera is still working. Especially if it's a camera that's been sitting down for a while, it's a good idea to just fire off a few frames so that your camera can get some type of use. Same thing goes for the lens and the aperture. Open and close that aperture up, see if there's any mold or dust or anything like fungus building up in there. This will give you a good assessment on if you need any type of repair or extra maintenance. But it's also just a good idea so that your camera can get a couple of reps in to ensure that it is still running smoothly. So do that before you do any type of maintenance. Now, obviously, I am not a camera tech. I don't know everything about these film cameras. I mostly just shoot with them, but I do feel like I know enough to avoid a lot of these issues that film cameras run into. And the first one starts with the battery. Now, folks, a lot of times we put batteries in these cameras and we forget about them. And what ends up happening is over the years, if you do not replace it, sometimes they oxidize and they leave this battery acid inside of the compartment. And that is something you don't want to do, especially if you plan to sell the camera later down the road. You want to make sure that the battery compartment is always clean so that all of the functions like the light meter as well as the electronics still work. So the first thing that I would do is, if you know your camera is going to be sitting out for a while and you're not going to use it, I would take the battery out. And I'm talking for extended periods of time. If you leave it in for a month, 6 months, maybe even a year, I think you're fine for the most part. But if it's something that you're gonna throw into storage, definitely take the battery out and make sure that you store that separately. Also, on the topic of battery, folks, it's a good idea, if you haven't shot the camera for a while, to replace the battery. Replacing the battery ensures that your light meters work, ensures that if your camera has an electronic shutter, it's going to operate at its full capacity. And having a fresh battery after a camera that's been sitting for a while, it's just a good idea. And so that is the first thing that I would take care of. The next thing that I would look at is the light seals. Now, light seals, you guys, are going to be inside of the back of the camera where you place your film. And most of the time they are going to be in these two little spots, this top kind of canal up here, then this one on the bottom, and then you're gonna have some light seals here on the very front here, kind of near the door hinge. Now, inspect your light seals every couple of months to make sure they are still good, but usually if your light seals are bad, especially when you are getting the camera, I would send your camera out to get it serviced, or maybe even learn how to do the light seals yourself. Now, replacing your light seals isn't really the hardest thing in the world, and if you learn to do it yourself, you can actually save a ton of money. So if you guys want to see me make a video about replacing your light seals, please drop a like down below, as well as a comment, so I know you guys want to see it. But folks, the light seals are extremely important because that's going to make sure that no extra light is going to expose the film, and you are just going to expose the film from your shutter. But there you have it, you guys. That is some basic care and maintenance for your 35mm film cameras that you guys can apply today. Like I said, all of these items are just household items, and it's a really good idea to do this maybe once every couple of months, just so that your cameras are clean and ready to go before you shoot. That's gonna wrap it up for me, you guys. I will see you in the next one. Please drop a like down below, and also if you're new to this channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. We're getting closer and closer to 200K, and I have a huge giveaway planned out for that milestone. So with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Minolta gang.